Friday, and you made it through the week again. And so let me encourage you with the Word of God today. Recently, Terry and I were in Washington helping her parents move into an assisted living situation, and all the siblings were there, and we had to move them out of the house, get everything ready for sailing. And it was a lot of emotional and physical work and drainage and so forth. But on my way home, I came home earlier than her. I overnighted in Klamath Falls, and it's a hotel I've stayed at before. Maybe a better term would be a motel, but this time it was a little bit different. I woke up Monday morning and was looking for some coffee, and there was no coffee pot in the room. And so I thought, well, I remember from previous times in the lobby, they had coffee and pastries and so forth, kind of a continental breakfast. And went to their lobby, and on the front door was a sign that said, due to COVID, again, this is just a week or two ago, but due to COVID, there was no coffee, pastries, anything being served in the lobby either. And so I said to myself, no problem, I'll drive up the street to McDonald's, because I knew they had good coffee, and I was towing a trailer behind me, so I couldn't do the drive-through, but I knew I'd just walk in the lobby and get a cup of coffee. And the sign on the door said lobby closed until 8 a.m. It was quite the morning, but my point was the motel that I stayed in, you kind of get what you pay for, right? It's not always luxury. It's a bed to sleep on and a place to take a shower, and on your way you go. Well, if we stop and think about this life, this is a temporary place. It's a place to overnight compared to heaven and eternity. And yet a lot of times we spend so much time, money, effort investing in this life that is so short, and we miss out on what God has for us for eternity. And so I want to take you to John chapter 14. This is the continuation of laying up treasures in heaven, the concept that we talked about on Monday and Wednesday. But John chapter 14, beginning in verse 1, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. Here's the key one. Verse 2, in my Father's house there are many rooms or many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you that. I go to prepare a place for you. Where was he going? He was going back to heaven. Verse 3, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. You know, the understanding of investing in our home is the understanding that we're investing in our true home, eternity, heaven. You know, we so often think about, for example, your house, a coat of paint, cosmetic, makes your house look good. But you understand that paint does more than just make it look good, right? It seals, preserves, keeps out moisture, protects wood, so forth, so on. You're investing in your earthly home for the sake of a longer enduring house. It won't rot, fade away, or fall down on you. And yet, the way we live our Christian life, we are investing in eternity. 2 Corinthians 5, verse number 20 says, therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God were making an appeal for us. We beg you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. We're an ambassador. This earthly home is just where we're doing the work of God. Our eternal home is heaven. Hebrews chapter 11. All these died in faith without receiving the promise, but having seen them and having welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and exiles on the earth, but as it is, they desire a better country, a heavenly home. And he goes on, we're just pilgrims. Our time here on earth is short, it's limited. If I could use a visual illustration, even though it won't show up on the screen, but imagine a line, a straight line. And the line goes and goes and goes, and not just 10 yards or 50 yards, but 100 yards, a mile, 2 miles. Let's just stop at 2 miles. That's long enough. You have this visual. And right in the middle of that 2 mile long straight line is one single dot. That dot represents our life. Eternity is represented by the 2-mile long line. Because why? You can barely even see the dot on the line because the line is so big, it is so long, it is so enormous, and yet that little dot is so insignificant. And you and I, living out this life, let's say we get 70, 80 years. Maybe, let's just say we get 100 years. We get 100 years. That is a dot compared to eternity. There is nothing in comparison. And so, when Matthew chapter 6, and I use this both on Monday and Wednesday, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust and thieves, they cannot take it from you. Lay up for yourselves eternal treasures. And how I live my line, 2 miles, how I live my life for eternity is what is laying up for those treasures in heaven. And so, we so often people ask, well, does money buy happiness? Yes. No. Yes, in eternity. Because why? How I invest my money, tithing, offerings, missionaries, sending kids to camp, helping the church. Yes, money will buy happiness because why? For eternity, you will enjoy the benefits. You will reap the rewards of what you did with here on this earth. And so let me just kind of close with this from Ecclesiastes 5. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves abundance with its income. This too is vanity. When good things increase, those who consume them increase. The more you have, the more they're going to take. And, heavenly wealth brings satisfaction now and forever. Heavenly wealth brings satisfaction now and forever. And so turning your attention, setting your value on that which is eternal is where your heart will end up going. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And I want to give you a quote from C.S. Lewis, Chronicles of Narnia, theologian, done all kinds of things. But here's what he says, and this was a century ago. We're half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what it is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea, a cruise at sea. We are far too easily pleased. That's C.S. Lewis, and I think those are great words, that we get so enamored with the joy and pleasures of this life that are just temporary. And we can understand that God has something far bigger, far better. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. You and I have something greater to look at. And when we keep our focus and our value on that which is most important, our heart will follow. Have a good weekend. We look forward to seeing you Sunday morning.